Well, this week's project is a really simple and easy tree skirt to help finish off that Christmas tree we made last week. Stay tuned and see how easy this really is. Well, the first step to make our tree skirt is to pick out a fabric. I prefer to use a cotton quilt type fabric from the fabric store. It's inexpensive and it's easy to work with. The first thing you need to look at is the design on the fabric. There's a couple of things you need to be careful of. It needs to be a small design. I wouldn't go anything bigger than this, and this may even be a little big, but they're cute and they would probably be okay. Not ideal, but they would be okay. And these are good because they go in all directions. Something you don't want to do is have a design that's one direction, because we're cutting our tree skirt in one piece. We're just making a really simple round tree skirt. And any of these would work. This would be kind of questionable because the design is all like two directions. It would be okay, not ideal. I'll probably just use the same one that I have been using to make tree skirts for dollhouses for years and years and years. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut myself off a chunk to work with. A little bit bigger than I'm going to need. The second thing you need to do after you pick out your fabric is you need to decide how big you want your tree skirt to be. And I got my Christmas tree out and I kind of tried some different things around the house, and I decided I like the diameter of this roll of masking tape. It will fit underneath my tree nicely. It won't stick out too far, so it won't overpower a miniature scene. We're going to work from the back. Now, for this step, I recommend that you use a pencil. I'm going to use a Sharpie only so that I am sure that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. We are going to cut this line off anyway. So I'm going to start, line is going on there. I'm going to trace my circle. Hopefully this is making a good line. This is why we're working on the back side. Alright, so we've got a line that you can see and that I can see. Put the cap back on my Sharpie, put my tape out of my way. Now before we cut this, we're going to seal our line where we're going to cut. I'm going to use Fray Check. If you don't have Fray Check, you could use a glue that dries like a thin tacky or a thin white glue that dries clear. It doesn't have to be a fabric glue for this. You could even use clear nail polish. What we are going to do is we're going to make a bead of this and we're going to go just inside that line. And then this needs to sit and dry. We're doing this from the back, so if it does discolor our fabric, there's less of a chance it's going to show. We are going to make a design on we're going to do something at the front edge anyway, so if it discolors a little bit, it won't matter too much. So you'll notice I'm putting a pretty generous bead of Fray Check all the way around this. And if you don't have Fray Check and you want to get it, you just go to the fabric store. It's with the rest of the notions. Just tell them you're looking for Fray Check. They'll be able to help you. And it's not very expensive. Now, yeah, it's not getting through. This will stick if it gets too thick. I'll wipe that a little bit off camera. So I'm going to wipe off my tile and get it dry. I'm going to let this set until this is completely dry. When it's completely dry, I'll come back and we'll go to the next. All right, this has sat overnight and it's now dry. And you can still see the black line on the front, but that's okay. And remember, when you're doing this, you will use a pencil, not a Sharpie, but I wanted you guys to see it. So now I'm just cutting off just that line that I drew. You're going to cut just inside of that. Didn't get quite inside. And these are my fabric scissors that are only used for fabric. Looks like it wasn't quite in far enough with my fray check on that spot. But in theory, by putting the bead of fray check around first, it will prevent this from fraying out. All right, now we are going to cut just the very tip off. You don't need much, about that much. And we're going to cut up to that. I folded it in quarters so that I can get just a really skinny line. And that's probably plenty. Now, you probably guessed, we are going to fray check around this. And then this needs to dry. I like to go from the back so I don't get quite as much out on the front. And these parts are really not going to show. This is going to go at the back of your tree and of course under your tree. And most of that will be covered with the tree branches and presents anyway. So I want to wipe my tray off so that this doesn't stick. I don't want to glue this to my ceramic tile with that stuff. All right, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and when that's dry, we will decorate our tree skirt. All right, so this is pretty much dry. It doesn't have to be all the way dry for our next step. I usually keep my tree skirts pretty simple. I just put something around the outside edge. And my favorite is the Scribbles 3D glue in the glittering gold. You could glue lace around this. You could do any number of things. I just stuck my hand in fabric paint. So what I'm going to do is just run a bead all the way around the tree skirt. Because remember, most of this is going to be covered up. If it doesn't go perfectly even, it's fine. You can set a present there. And this will even out a little bit as it dries. Try to keep it pretty close to the edge though. Oops, I've got an air bubble. And of course it would have an air bubble at the very front of my tree skirt. What is going on? Come on. There. I think I'm almost out of this. Come on. Alright, we are going to do a little troubleshooting here and see what is wrong. Yep, I'm just really low. These caps do come off, by the way. Take that off, make sure it wasn't plugged. Okay, I'm going to have to turn this container upside down for a while. So I will let this sit upside down, and once it has time to all drain to the tip, I'll come back and we'll finish going around. That bottle is getting pretty close to empty, so that's why I'm having difficulties. Alright, so I went and ate my lunch, and now I'm going to see if I can make this work again. Otherwise, I may be re-recording. So, I think my fabric paint is pretty much dry. Pretty much empty, but I think I can get all the way around. We're not going to go up that back slit. We're going to leave that plain. There. Now this just needs to dry, and this stuff does take quite a while to dry. And just leave it flat and let it dry, and when that's done, I'll come back and we'll see how this looks complete. Alright, so this is pretty much dry. There's a few spots like that one that's thicker that aren't dry yet, but I wanted to show you how this looks, and reach around and get my Christmas tree, and we'll put this under it. So I can do this without messing up the spots of my paint that are not dry yet. But there we go. That is our Christmas tree with its skirt under it, all ready for the presents to set around it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure and check the blog post for some photos. I'll try and have a couple of different photos of the skirt and the skirt around the tree after it gets all the way dry. But I love how this turned out. And remember, you can make yours however you want. I don't bother to decorate the center of the skirt because nobody's going to see it. I put all my decoration around the outside edge, but you could glue on some lace. You could do all kinds of things with this. Let me back this up just a little bit. There. You could do all kinds of things with this and make it uniquely your own. So I hope you enjoyed today's project. If you haven't found the Facebook page, the link is always in the description box. I'd love to have you come join us there. It's usually the fastest way to get a hold of me, and I usually post some pictures of what I'm doing for the video earlier in the week so you get to see what we're going to do. Check the blog post for more photos, and next time we'll make something to decorate the tree with.